Well, good day everybody. Well, I got two Falcon E-Series sumps here, and an auto pan. It's actually a really solid pan though. This is actually off an AU Falcon, which obviously had a completely rooted auto, because you can't appreciate it on camera, but there's lots of metallic particles in there. Like, that's auto fluid, that's not engine oil there. You can tell there's a lot of metallic bits in there, because this is engine oil, you know. This is just, yeah. So anyway, I've got to clean this absolutely filthy sump up, which it will clean up. There's a small, you know, it's dented up slightly. You can see where the pickup's been. Oh, no, it was just sitting in there. That's right, when we got it. So I'm gonna bash the dent out of the bottom of that sump. It's only very minor, and then that'll clean out. That'll clean up. You might be wondering why I would be fitting a sump to a motor that's so filthy or needing to do work when I've got this lovely clean one. Well, this is the reason. So the bottom of that one's sort of flat. This one's not. Which brings me to the topic of this video, which is, yeah, I've also got a bent pickup too. You can't really tell it's bent, but that's sort of, you know, not quite right. It's just bent, I don't know, a couple of centimetres up. This is this is just a reminder for all you DIYers out there, and even professionals. If you know, even if you work professionally in automotive workshops, things can change very quickly, which could very possibly end your life, and it nearly ended mine yesterday night. I got ready to fit this Falcon motor back in the car, and I had to move the car over slightly where it is now, because the crane was sort of on the edge of that concrete driveway there, where it drops off about 6 inches. You can't really see it in the video, but you can't see how far it drops off in the video, but it drops off about 6 inches. And what happened was, where the crane is now, and I had the boom up quite a lot higher than it is now, say about a foot, yeah, maybe, let's say it was a foot higher than what it is, at least. What happened was, I didn't take into account that the centre of this sort of driveway, where it's not concrete, it's got concrete either side, there's actually a small difference. It's probably about 2 inches, maybe. I'm going to guess it's 2 inches. So it's, you know, maybe 5 centimetres. Yeah. But if you get back, the crane's actually on an angle. Now this camera's sort of roughly straight. You can see, compared to the carport, how much of an angle the crane's on. Now, it's not a very big angle, so you wouldn't really give it much thought. But what I did was, I was just moving the crane over, because I'd moved the car over already, so I wanted to move the crane over. And I did what I always do. I just, you know, I've done it 1,000 times. When you got the crane in the dirt, you just put the the bar in there, and you just sort of move it over like that. Well, what happened was the wheel dug into the ground slightly, only very slightly, or maybe it hit a stone or something. You know, maybe it had a stone under there, which is very possible, because it's not exactly a very clean area. And what happened was, because it was already on an angle over towards this way anyhow, the crane started to tip, and I was beside it. So I was where the operator stands, you know, for the hydraulic ram. I was just standing beside this, operating the ram, and then I thought, oh, I'll move it over a bit now that the car's been moved over. And the crane started to tip, because, you know, with the auto and the engine so damn heavy that it just started pulling it down. So I put my hand there to try and save it. Of course, you know, it was too late. So what I ended up doing was jumping out of the way. I think the crane and the engine must have been forward a little bit, because the engine and auto ended up smashing through the fence there. You can see can see a slight dent there, which is, I'm not exactly sure which part of the engine that did that, but anyway, it smashed on that patrol diff. That's obviously what the mark is on the sump, the indentation. But it just goes to show you've got to be very careful whether you're working as a professional or you've got a crappy driveway like this. It just goes to show, if you spend a little bit of time you know, preparing and making it safe, even if you don't think it's a big deal, which I didn't, I just, you know, 2 inches I thought was nothing. But when you've got something like an engine crane like that, it's going to be unstable with the boom up, and the only way to make it more stable would be to extend these outriggers, which would be a pain. But if you had outriggers maybe a foot further out, then you're going to have a lot more leverage on the crane to keep it from tipping over. Now, I think it could be a very good idea to maybe just, you know, borrow a bit of logic from the way the crane's been made. You know, I could just have some outriggers that are a better fit than that, but I could have them slip in. And I'm not really sure how I would do it yet, but I'd have outriggers that go out further. So anyway, there'd be an extra thing you'd have to step over, you know, about here. But yeah, the further in these wheels are to the centre line of the crane, the more unstable it's going to be. Now, this is better than some other older cranes because it actually has a set of wheels here too. But I really believe it needs a set of outriggers that go further out. Now this crane over here, with the busted pump block, as I found out when I tried to use it, actually has semi-solved the problem because it's a totally different design. It's just got a slightly wider footprint than the other crane, which is great, but yeah, it's a really cumbersome crane because you can't pull it down or anything, whereas this one, you know, it pulls down into, you know, you can fit it in the boot of a Falcon, for example. So it's actually a really good crane. But what it's designed for, which every backyard mechanic and every motor mechanic that's working in their driveway at home, if you don't have a garage with a concrete floor, you've got to keep in mind what these cranes are actually designed, or where they're designed to be used. And that's pretty obviously not in a driveway with concrete and dirt or anything. It's really, they're meant to be used in an area that's been concreted. Because if you look at the diameter of these wheels, which is not very much, they're not going to roll over any, you know, stone or anything. They're not designed to. The other crane, the wheels are a lot bigger. This crane that looks like it's been made by an engineer or something, like the wheels are maybe 5 times bigger. Yeah, they're quite a number of inches bigger, you know, to give you an idea of scale. And, you know, the bigger wheels are obviously slightly more stable too. But yeah, just goes to show whatever you're doing, whether it's lifting an engine up or jacking a car up, you know, you've never got a big enough hurry that, you know, the safety's not important, because at the end of the day, you know, if I couldn't have gotten out of the way, where you can see there's a heap of shit behind the crane, very likely I would have been crushed. So, you know, by the time the crane tipped over, the engine pulled the crane down, and, you know, that's a lot of weight. It's a lot more weight than a human body can withstand, so, you know, falling on top of it. So you got to be very careful, and a better place to do it is, if you've got a driveway like this where it's all uneven and shit, I suggest you don't do it there. The only reason it's under here is because it's been so hot, but I suggest you do it out here. Now, it's not the most even ground in the world, but it's a lot more even than what the carport ground is. This is where I did the XL engine change. This is also all hard and not oil soaked dirt, so it's not so much of an issue. The wheels don't tend to sink in, and anyway, if I really had to, I could level it off better. So yeah, it's just my little story, and I hope it, you know, helps somebody out. I suggest that if you're in a big hurry and you are not willing to take the correct safety precautions, that you simply take the following safety precaution, which I think is probably the best way of avoiding an accident. you know, especially if you're in a hurry to get the job done, and that is to sit your ass on the back step or in a chair or something, buy a box of your favourite beer, and yeah, crack open a few beers and instead of doing the job, because that way you won't be doing the job in a hurry. You'll wait until you got more time to do it, because there's no way that any hurry is more important than safety. So yeah, it's just a little lesson. For argument's sake, gantry is a lot safer than an engine crane, so it's slightly more expensive to set up a gantry, but if you're going to be doing a lot of engine changes, I suggest that you do not use an engine crane, because they are inherently dangerous in their design and it's very hard to make them stable, and I suggest that you use a gantry, because gantries they're not designed to move around, and to be honest, it's not really that much more of a pain to use a gantry. You're not going to roll this on the ground anyway. Like, this is a pain in the ass even when it doesn't have a load, but it's a great crane, but at the end of the day I guess it's built to a price, and the only way to make it safer would be to have these outriggers further out, which you would run into a problem of, you know, you can't fit it in compact spaces anymore, but at least if you got that boom up, you'd have a snowball's chance in hell if it starts to go the way it is. But if you got bigger outriggers, then you might have a slight chance better. But yeah, just be careful.